This is episode 10 of the Hybrid Coaching Podcast. In this episode, JK and I discuss our recent half marathon results, as well as how hybrid fitness can be used to participate in other periphery events. If you want to get coached by JK or myself, Anthony, join us at jk.hybridcoaching or on the Hybrid Engine, both on Instagram. Check it out, have fun, take a 7-day free trial. Let's make hybrid fitness work for you. Okay.
There we go.
All right. Hey, how's it going today, JK?
Very well, thank you, Anthony. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Got back from Montana. It's the first work day after Independence Day here, which was nice because it was on a Thursday this year, which usually means when it's on a Thursday, either people don't work or very lightly work on that Friday after. So it's like you get a 4-day weekend.
Yeah, how was it? What did you guys get up to for it?
So the weekend before we were in Montana. So we ended up just driving back, spending time here at home. And it's really nice, after a vacation, you get your like settle down time, like back into the groove of things. So let me get back into the groove and let Lily get back on schedule. So that's nice. And I got to do some extra working out. So I'm a little extra sore today. And then already did my threshold run today because I do mine on Monday and Wednesdays, which I guess now that we're like opposite sides of the earth, it's kind of like you're a day ahead of me anyway. So
yeah, exactly. So
your
it's exactly the
threshold
same
day right
time.
now too. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a Memorial Day workout that everyone hits?
So there's Memorial Day, which is Murph, and then there's July 4th, which
Sorry, not
yeah.
July.
I mean, not that I know of. Like, it's not really the only like set workout is Murph, and that's Memorial Day. But usually it's like you can do any hero
Right.
workout, and that's just like the CrossFit side of things. Most people do end up doing a big workout on Independence Day or something, and I'm sure there's a few that people try to like get to stick, but it's just whatever you want to do. Get a big workout in.
Yeah. Well, I had a 75-minute threshold working on Saturday, mate. Those of you who know, well, actually, Anthony and Lauren, you guys did a half marathon last week, and actually I and Georgie, my partner, did our half marathon this weekend, which was great actually. So
Yep.
we kind of just got back home as well from a nice weekend away doing that, and we'll obviously get in talking about that, I'm assuming, on today's.
Yeah. So Lauren and I hit the Missoula, Montana. It was my grandpa's 90th birthday party on that Saturday, which happened to line up with the Missoula Marathon and half marathon going off on the next day, Sunday. So kind of got to drive up there and show Lily her great grandpa and hang out with him a little bit. It was his 90th birthday. Hung out with family and everything. And then we spent the night in Missoula, and the start line for the half marathon is like 200 meters from my grandpa's front door. So we just parked at my grandpa's house and walk over to the start line. It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
Missoula Marathon is a little unique. It actually, the first quarter mile, the half marathon, the first quarter mile was like a couple percent grade uphill, and then like a mile and a half of like about equal percent grade downhill. And then the whole rest of the race, so you got like 9.5, 10 miles more of the race, 11 miles more of the race, is just like a very slight incline. It's like a 1% grade incline. So for us, it was a great test of like, well, I personally, when testing threshold paces for people, if we don't have the scientific, prick your finger or your earlobe and measure it with the lactate meter and everything, if you don't have that, then get in a race and see what you can hold for an hour and a half, or a half marathon in the case of what we did. And can you hold your threshold pace for that? And it turned out just, it was awesome that we were both just like slightly faster than our threshold pace for a marathon, than our
Great.
aerobic threshold pace, so LT1. Which I'm
2-1.
sure on this podcast, you and I have already talked about it. One day we're going to do a threshold series, because it's probably going to take like 2 or 3 episodes to actually get through talking about how to train like that. But so yeah, Lauren and I were both able to go a little bit faster than our threshold pace, and she even stopped to go to the bathroom in the middle of the race. So it's like 90 seconds there. We both hit PRs.
Yeah.
It was great. And talking to you about your half marathon, you can get into it a little bit too, but I'll just preface it with like, I knew you were going to PR, and I knew like I had a good idea of what I thought you could hit just based off of your threshold paces that you've been running for the last, I guess it's been about 5 months now. So I was like,
Yeah.
pretty certain, like, all right, here's where you're going to be. Even if like you only held it for an hour and then fell completely off, like it just kind of should show we've been nailing your paces for a while, and you beat your paces, which means for you, we were going to do a lactate threshold test today, but you're going to wait another week. But it should mean for you that your threshold has increased a little. And so we're going to remeasure it and uh, see if we can get your numbers dialed back in, because you're faster now than when we started.
Yeah. And it was crazy because my race took place today, so is days prior to this recording. And if I look back at it now, the Gold Coast Marathon and Hun Festival is probably the most prestigious running event in Australia. Uh, get the likes of elite runners coming out to run it, because it's very fast. It's a very well-known fast course, and just for the running nerds out there, the winning marathon time yesterday, which was say was 2:07, which isn't necessarily like in the up there with like the best time, but it's a pretty fast marathon time, a
That's
2:07.
that's really
Uh,
fast. 207, like
yeah,
that, 30, 40 years ago, that's unheard of.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
top time in the world, everybody's chasing that 2 hour, right? So 7 minutes off over a marathon is like what, 15 seconds per mile, uh, or like 20, 25
yeah.
seconds per kilometer slow, or yeah, slower, less than that, 10 seconds per kilometer slower. Like that's quick.
Yeah. So, I was, I may have said this on podcast beforehand, but before I got into High Rocks, I used to play Australian rules football, but I did have a few years that it got stuck into marathon running and marathon training. And let's just call it like the journey of like chasing the marathon. I did 6 marathons in the space 18 months when I was like 21. And along that kind of timeline, I hit a few half marathons. And back in the day, I my PR for a half marathon was 1 hour and 17. So I think you just said you knew that I was going to PR that, but I don't know. I just because I haven't done a half marathon, I had no idea. I was training. Look, I've been training for High Rocks and High Rocks told running for quite some time. But I had no clue how my body was going to hold up, especially I guess the back 5 kilometers, as you just said. But you know, as the day went, or as the race folded, I was able to be like splits. If you have my splits, um, like I was so consistent. Um, I ended up at 3:34 for the half marathon, and I was able to do a 1 hour and 15 minutes and 19 seconds. So I PR'd by about 2 minutes. And like I was acting. It's funny, listeners. Anthony and I haven't even spoken about it yet. So, I was at the maybe the 14, 15 kilometer mark. So just shy of the hour. And in my head, I was like, okay, I'm feeling good, but surely I'm gonna feeling it, because like everything that we do, especially since we've been to working Anthony the last 22 weeks, we don't go above, apart from a long run here or there, we don't go above, like it's very rarely to go above an hour 15 or an hour 10 uh, time domain with workouts, especially threshold workouts. So I was like, all right, it was about an hour. I was like, okay, let's see what happens. And I like very short. I was obviously able to really finish strong, which I was more proud of than um the actual placement or the actual time. I was actually, if I look back at it now, I'm like, no, it's a big tick for me to understand that the work that I've put in with my threshold running has allowed me to the strength in my legs, to really finish strong in the back end of a half marathon.
Yeah.
Um, we haven't had we like, correct me wrong, Anthony, we haven't had any half pure half marathon training whatsoever. It was just the the hybrid way of training that we're doing right now,
Yeah.
which has allowed me to do a 15-minute half marathon.
Yeah. It's exactly, man. We're trying to get you consistent at your pace. And a couple of things, like you said there. So you've done a couple of runs that have been towards the 90-minute mark, but you're not hitting even a half marathon in that 90 minutes. So and those are just
Yeah.
your easy runs. So we're building up that time domain. But one of the things I remember telling you beforehand was like, look, just take it at this pace and for an hour. And that was like your threshold pace. And then it's like, you should be able to do that because, the science, the data we have back that up. But additionally, you should be able to, all right, now the last 4 kilometers, because that's about what you would have had left at the end of an hour. It's like, all right, now take those last four
Yep.
kilometers and hammer it home. And I remember looking at your splits and I kind of laughed. I was like, I know he did. The effort was probably higher in those last 4 kilometers, but your pace was the same. But you were able to maintain it
Mm.
to get through and finish in that 75-minute mark, which is just fantastic, right? Did you
Yeah.
break it up like in your head as you were running? Like, oh, okay, there's 5K. That was quick. Oh, there's the second 5K, third 5K. Oh, there's my last 5K. And then all I have is a 1K after that. Like, did you break it up anyway when you were running? Or were you just like, I'm just trying to get to that hour? I know I can hold this pace for an hour. So if I don't break it, I'm going to be good. Um,
No, it was pretty much bang on. It was 5K. All right, I'm feeling good. Get to 10K, feeling good, and obviously we all understand that 10K isn't halfway. So getting to the flame mark is a big milestone as well. I remember in the 15K mark, as I just said, and I was like, all right, I'm feeling really good here. Like it's only 6K to go. And the other thing that I think like I did very well at doing, and we spoke about this briefly, Anthony, was my nutrition during the race was on point. I ended up doing a lot. I purposely um, made sure that I was banking up my carbohydrate intake very early on during the race. I actually cracked my first gel at the 2 kilometer mark. Now, guys, I didn't have the whole gel at the 2 kilometer mark. I had a quarter and ended up putting it back in my pocket. I ended up having another quarter about 10 minutes after that. And then uh, I felt like that actually did me justice because I didn't have any dips of just natural energies. Well, I probably did it by the end, right? But um, I didn't take like a big hydrate intake at any point. I just nipped away at it. And I nipped away at it early, rather than later. And that's a strategy that we spoke about, which was fantastic. It was pretty hot, and it was a little bit like it was raining a little bit and whatnot. I was sweating, so I made sure that I was hydrating very early as well. Um, but yeah, it was a great result. And then what was it? 22 minutes later, Georgie came in. Did we say 22 minutes? Yeah,
It was
20, or no,
137.
like, yeah, yeah. So 22 minutes later, she came in and Georgie, my partner, her first half marathon was last year and she did an hour 50. And then on the weekend, guys, she did a 1 hour 36 minute half marathon. She PR'd by almost 14 minutes. And that's honestly just to do with her consistency over a whole year of her running programming and running training, which is amazing. 14 minutes in a year, which was credit to her as well.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be careful. She takes another 14 minutes off. She's gonna be approaching you.
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah, that's what she's saying.
Yeah. That's you're gonna encounter what I'm encountering where I'm trying to catch my wife on a
Yeah, that's right.
marathon instead of
I don't know how I'll feel if and when that happens, but
yeah. So I tell you what, it's humbling. I thought I was
I
fat.
bet
I'd
it
be all
is.
sore now.
I
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's fantastic for us. So what I wanted to lean this into was we're going to talk about how hybrid fitness can help you prepare for other events besides just uh a hybrid fitness event like a DECA or a High Rocks or something. Like obviously we know we can prepare for that. But how can we do other things that are on the periphery of hybrid fitness? And one of those things would be a strictly running event, which is what we both accomplished this past week, 2 weeks. And JK, one of the things you said there was your strength of your running, the strength in your legs, being able to handle that resiliency, right? And so when we do our hybrid fitness, we have these priorities, and I like to call it a priority in your training because we never like leave something out, but there are like, oh, this piece needs to be more important because my next event coming up, this will factor higher into it, right? So the importance you place on different pieces is an important aspect of hybrid fitness. Now, one of those things is obviously all the time we're prioritizing your threshold running, but anybody out there that doesn't know, JK does double threshold and not traditional double threshold either, where it's like what just a runner would do. JK gets to do double threshold a little bit adapted. And what we've done with that is we've put him on the machines in his afternoon workouts and forced threshold work it through there. So he's not working one modality. He's not just working that singular motion, that plane of running and that repetitive motion there. He's actually getting threshold work through different muscle activation points. So when he rows, when he skis, you can do it on the bike as well. And so what that's doing is that's working that energy system through a different modality. Uh, and it's really helpful. And obviously it's helped his running. Um, so JK, just in your runs, your running, the weightlifting as well has helped you. The way we do weightlifting, by the way, is not hypertrophy. We're not trying to get more muscle mass because more muscle mass isn't necessarily beneficial unless it's well-trained muscle mass. And actually, we talked about this a little bit for your weight. And this is another
Yeah.
question I had before I get too far off topic. You had mentioned that A couple of years ago, you ran the Gold Coast Half Marathon. Your previous PR was a 1:17. What were you weighing back then?
About 75 kilograms.
So that's about
What's
165
that
pounds.
in? Yep.
And right now,
And
what'd you
and
weigh?
I'm about 80
So
kilograms
you're
right
five
now.
kilos heavier, which is about 11 pounds heavier. You're 11 pounds heavier, and you ran 2.5 minutes faster over 13.1 miles. So if you were to calculate, and this is something that I usually do in the background too, is I like to calculate your power output. I'll calculate it. You can calculate it
Mhm.
in horsepower, but it's a really small number in horsepower. So usually calculate it in foot-pounds per second. Um,
Right.
and so that's work over time. And the way you can calculate that is just by your weight and the distance you travel divided by the time it takes you to do that, and you can calculate it. Your power output being heavier is much higher being heavier and running faster, obviously, than being lighter and running 2 minutes slower. So
Yeah.
your overall power output didn't just increase by that 2.5 minutes. You had to increase your power output to account for those 5 extra kilos that you're carrying
Correct.
and to go
Mm,
faster. So your power output might
yeah.
be like exponentially higher, not like massively, but it's much higher than it was previously. Which is something
Mm,
I just wanted to mention is like people talk about their weight, and if I was lighter, I'd go faster. And it's like, well, you have to have your strength to weight ratio. How strong are you compared to the weight you are? So right now, I would say you're twice as strong and weigh a little bit more, but you're able to propel your
yeah.
body because of that, right?
Yeah, I strongly believe that due to the hybrid way of training that I've been doing it for a quite some time though. It's allowed and it's allowed my body to just be strong structural so than when I was just running. And like we could talk, you know, a lot of science behind long endurance runners and obviously the power to weight ratio and whatever. But for me as an athlete, due to the hybrid way of training, what it means is obviously combining strength and endurance, everything in between, as we all know what hybrid is. It's allowed me to be as strong as possible structurally. And Anthony, I'll just like kind of give you an example. Like I feel like my torso and my hips and my glutes, my abdomen area is a lot stronger now than it's ever been before. And I ask like, yeah, like obviously, you know, going back to the topic of this hybrid way of training can help you um, get get to your next race or even your next strength um, competition. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to give you an example of I feel strong biomechanically, but also, you know, as 2 minutes from a half marathon. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So I actually wrote some notes because you were talking there. It made me think of a few things. First thing I want to say is like, just in case somebody's listening and you don't know what hybrid is, like JK said, we all know what hybrid is. If you don't know what hybrid is, we had a podcast a couple weeks ago about what is hybrid fitness. So you can go on there and listen. But mostly like we talk about it blending strength and conditioning. And it's not just like CrossFit. And we talk about what the difference between CrossFit and hybrid is if you want to go back and listen to that. But mostly the biggest difference would be the focus of the 10 general fitness skills is more endurance based and running rather than strength, the way CrossFit is. Additionally, now you said your core and you feel more stable. JK, you
There
know,
you
in
go.
programming as a coach, we do a lot of stability stuff. Um, since
We
like
do.
you've come on, I've done a lot of stability stuff with you and like working that core, because the number one thing that we talk about for movement, any kind of movement, is going to be core to extremity. So everything starts at that hip girdle, that abdominal, that core range between your nipple and your knee, right? That, and then works its way out. So everything you do, if you can brace your core properly, and if you have stability in those small muscles, uh, that is that is fantastic. Like I'm glad that you feel that way, because that is definitely something we work on a lot, um, to
All the
to find
time. Yeah.
that balance. And
And
yeah,
just to clarify, Anthony, like just for the listener, core and the stability, that's not just like that's not just your posture. That's just not your anterior, which is front of your body. That's posture, the back of the body, your lower back, your glutes. Um, you know, core strength is not just your abs. Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah. So we work a lot of antagonistic too. So like, if you notice,
Mm,
anytime I pair something that has to do with your hip flexors or your quads, we pair it with a back erector movement. You can also do
mm,
glutes with your abdominals. We work a lot of our sides, so we do Russian twist and suitcase holds and side bends to work those obliques. But we do a lot of stability in those areas too, Chinese planks, weighted planks, all that kind of stuff.
mm.
Because that is the
Yeah. Yeah.
main focus area of that needs to be strong and stable for you to be able to perform any movement.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the
So like,
last, okay.
no, no, you go.
Oh, and then I was going to say the last thing we do as far as strength training, because we strength train, yes, we want to get stronger, but we want to get stronger with the current muscle we have. One big thing that I always laugh about is when people are like, "Oh, I don't want to get big, so I don't want to lift weights." I'm like, you number one, you're not going to. You have to eat to get big. If you want to get big, you have to want to get big, and you have to fuel that some way. Just because
Yeah.
you lift doesn't mean that you're going to get big. Now, lifting will do is it can reduce fat, it can increase muscle mass, which increases your metabolism. But one of the main things is your muscle recruitment, your muscle fiber recruitment. When you lift without eating to get big, instead of growing more muscle, which there's several things that make you stronger, the cross-sectional area of your muscle is one of those things. But muscle fiber recruitment is another portion of it. Like how many of those muscle fibers that you have are actually being recruited during a movement. Uh, and so when we're
Yeah.
lifting without the goal of increasing our muscle size, we're trying to recruit more muscles into the movement itself. And so that's another way that we structure our lifting, and that we've structured with you. And so I think that contributes to your ability to run, and it increases like the amount of muscle you're actually using, or the muscles that can be engaged. So you're either using a lower percentage when you're running, so it's less effort, so your body's managing the energy better, or you're just stronger
Mm,
through every step. Or like
yeah.
as like we talked about, you get to the end and you have 4 kilometers left, and those main muscles that have been used are getting fatigued. They can recruit the other muscles around them to help with the process of what is happening.
Mm. So
So
if you're a let's just say you're a basketballer or playing a team sport, why hybrid why is the hybrid way to train going to be going to be very good for your overall performance in that sport? Now, obviously, let's just give an example of basketball more than anything. So we're very niche here. Why is maybe hybrid the way to train for a basketballer? That's a
that
pretty yeah.
I'm a wrestler, so
Okay,
basketball and
okay.
wrestling, they're conflicting, right? The
Yeah,
best
a
thing
little
about
bit.
the best thing about a basketball floor is wrestling mats door to door.
Yeah.
So uh But in terms of like what can it do, I always think it's funny. Hybrid's the new term for it, but this stuff has been around forever. Like even people that are like, oh, it's just saying that High Rocks is just CrossFit. No, I mean, what is CrossFit? CrossFit was just circuit training from the 90s. Like there's not everything's been something else, right? Hybrid is
Yeah.
just now what we're calling strength and conditioning. People have been doing strength and conditioning for their sports, for their athletics, like years before the terms came about, right?
Mm,
It's just the new name for it. So it's yes, it's going to help, and yes, it's going to be there. They should be doing it. Uh,
mm,
they don't have to niche down into like, hey, I'm a basketball player and I don't want to do powerlifting because I don't see how it's going to help with my sport. And it's like, well, squats, bench, and deadlift will help you maintain health. They'll help you maintain
mm.
strength, no matter who you are. So it
Yeah.
should be done. Yeah, you don't have to put a focus on it and go to a powerlifting meet, but you should be doing those movements. I always remember hearing about, I think it was Kevin Durant, who, when he entered the NBA, couldn't bench 135, which for you is 60 kilos. You're talking about
Wow.
guy getting paid millions of dollars who's a professional basketball player and he can't bench one plate on either side.
Wow.
Um, at
Yeah.
that point,
Right.
it's like it's there's a fragility to it because basketball, especially, you have that accuracy and you have to maintain your ability to
Mm,
shoot from every spot. So if your body's changing, it might get awkward. You might, oh, I'm heavier than I usually am. So there's that. But you want to have the ability to adapt at any time. So you should be able to push
mm.
off someone, right? You got to be able to extend your arm. If I can't bench 135 and I got a guy that's crowding me who's 6'6", 250 pounds, how am I going to push off him without just pushing myself? Like I have no
Yeah.
strength here, you know? How are you going to post on me?
Yeah.
So, um, it makes sense to be able to have at least a minimal amount of strength and be able to do those things because additionally, like you talked about just earlier, you felt strong in your hips, you felt strong in your back and your core, like you weren't getting tight. If you have that ability to stay strong through that portion of yourself, then you can last longer in the game instead of by having to be taken out every couple minutes and rotated through. Like maybe you can have a longer game, you can stay in for a longer duration because your ability to play at a higher level is sustained because you do other work outside of just your skill sport, which always got to me because I'll just relate it back to wrestling. Wrestling's an individual sport, but you are on a team. uh, One of the most common things I heard growing up as a wrestler was, if you want to get better at wrestling, you need to wrestle. Just wrestle. Like that's what everybody told us. So that's like all I did. Um, I wish
Right.
somebody would have said, "Hey, get in the weight room. Touching a weight's not going to make you gain weight to have to go up a weight class, or even if it does, you're stronger." Like I wish somebody would have told me
Mm.
that instead of just, if you want to get better at wrestling, go wrestle, because that's all we ended up doing was wrestling all the time.
Uh, it's that topic there, that statement, right, is an interesting one because I personally think that there's hybrid training. Okay. And I think someone like yourself, Anthony, has kind of taken it to the next level to um to actually allow people to understand there's a difference between hybrid training and high rocks training. Now, let me elaborate. Like, I think, and no criticism here, but I think a lot of people see high rocks, and let's just be niche here, and a lot of listeners here are high rocks athletes, um, and probably are training for a high rocks right now. A lot of people see what high rocks is. It's never going to change. You know? 1K run, 1K ski, 1K run, blah blah blah. Um, I think a lot of people see it and go, the way I can train for this is doing compromise running AMRAPs all day, every day, get better at to get better at high rocks. Full stop period. And I'll be honest with you, when I started high rocks, that's how I trained because I thought that's how I thought, and I trained a little while, and then I started to understand that it's not necessarily the best way to train for the actual sport of high rocks all the time. I guess like what you said before about you used to get told as a wrestler, just go wrestle. Um, as a coach myself in this high rock space, um, yeah, as I said, there's time and place to do a high rocks compounding workout, but I've learned the power of not obviously not doing that too much, and obviously focusing on the individual aspects of the race to get overall. What thought behind all that?
Yeah, so you talked about how like not just doing high rocks to get better at high rocks. Like if somebody wants to start and you don't know where your fitness is at, you can jump in, go ahead, start out, do a sim, see where you're at. But you're only going to get so far if all you do every day is sim workouts or exactly the movement patterns of
Mm,
the race. One of the things we do, uh you and me both, we focus on things outside of the race itself, a general overall fitness, right? We strive to actually uh get better at uh being fit overall, so you can jump into anything. But we also train certain things in a silo. Like you train sometimes you train running and machine work, which is 10/16 of the race, specifically without anything else. Like that is the work you
yep.
put in, right? And then is it really compromised running, or are you running at a rate you're able to and it's compromised station work? Like which one is going to factor in more? And I really think that depends on the athlete.
Mm, I
Uh,
agree. Yeah, and obviously the background of the athlete and what their strengths and weaknesses are.
yeah. And everybody can get better at different pieces of the race. And they'll get better at different rates as well. But uh, one of the things I know we do is like we train everything, almost everything in a silo. Like we do strength separate from our runs separate from anything else, machine work separate from anything else. You do your applied strength. Sometimes we blend it. Like, what was it yesterday? You had a shuttle run and a squat clean every minute for 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yep.
you do like certain things like that. But what really binds it together, the thing that like we really start to get into is we don't do it every day. Uh, and we don't do it high rock specific until we're about 4 to 6 weeks out from a high rocks event. But sometimes we'll touch on it. So like when we're this far out from our next high rocks event, you're doing it like maybe once a week, or even there'll be a week without it. But a high rock specific workout. But our GPP, our general physical preparedness, where we actually, it's the glue that binds all that other stuff together, right?
Yeah.
So it's really what sticks everything and gets you that feeling in the race. Just as an example of what a GPP is, what was the last one you did? What was your last GPP?
Wouldn't it have been the farmers carry into the run afterwards last week? Is that a GPP?
No, that wasn't your GPP. That was a little extra credit thing. What, or that was gross conditioning for you actually. Oh, was it the bike and thrusters from yesterday?
Oh yeah, the bike. Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
let's talk about that. That was
sometimes
terrible.
sometimes GPP is two movements, sometimes it's a long chipper. I tell you what, it looks very similar to CrossFit a lot of the time, except for we'll have more
Does.
endurance pieces in there. And we're not necessarily focused on gymnastic skills in it. But if you want to tell everybody what that workout was, I like that one. I might actually go do that in a day or two when I'm not as sore.
I'd love you to go do it, and I just how it compares, mate. 5 rounds. each for time, 15 cal assault bike, and then 12 dumbbell thrusters. So meant to be very quick and speedy, with with 1 minute break in between. Um, I was yeah, and no, obviously, but I definitely felt my leg, my my run still on the weekend, but yeah, that assault bike just kills me, mate.
That and I bet you what part of it is that you did that 2 days after your half marathon. So that fatigue in your legs was not there to produce the power in the assault bike that would have been needed to blast that
Yeah,
workout. And I mean I knew, but it was I was curious what you're gonna be able to do on that. We haven't given you something that
yeah.
explosive in a while. So yeah,
Mm.
I might try to go do that. I was thinking to myself, I wonder if I could do every round under 1 minute. Um I might be able to start that, but
Wow.
I think by the end of it, I might blow up.
Okay.
So
Okay. Geez, if you're able to do that, I'll be very impressed. I'll be very impressed. Yeah. Will that be on a assault or an echo?
I have an assault bike at home.
Assault.
Yeah.
Yeah, assault.
But you
Yeah.
know, hey, it's an assault bike. I'm at elevation, so the air's a little thinner. Maybe it's a little faster. I don't know. We'll find
Mm.
out.
Yeah.
Um,
There you go.
but
But I
that's,
think,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm not the endurance athlete that you are. Uh, I just can produce power, so that would be the only difference.
I
Uh,
think like just an example to the listeners, like that's a workout that I, as a Hyrox elite athlete, is doing not not that specific workout on the regular, but I'm doing a workout like that, like on the regular. Wet and dumbbell thrusters. I don't touch them in a Hyrox race. The assault bike is not in a Hyrox race.
yeah.
That's just understanding that you don't have to Hyrox compromise AMRAP all the time.
Right. And I mean, just like without revealing, I guess, everything you did, but that wasn't the first thing you did of the day. It was 2 days after a half marathon that you PR'd, you ran hard, right? So you had 1 day of rest, active recovery after that. And then this was the first training day. And you'd already ran, I don't even remember what it was, at least 10K in the morning before you did that. And then you
Yep,
had other pieces, including like some squats and then the shuttle run clean thing we talked about. So none of that stuff is in a high rocks race except for the running. So we're working your body, we're working your energy systems, we're working you specifically to be able to handle the demands that any piece of the race could throw at you.
correct. Yeah, biomechanically,
Yep.
and structurally, as I said before. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
So
think that contributes. Like, I know we talked a lot about you and your race on this one, but like Lauren's race and my race the week before, we do the same hybrid training. We do the same hybrid fitness. And
yeah,
look what it does. Like we were able to go into a running race and put up a PR on a good running race. And it's not the fastest, but like I was I think I was 45th in the race, 45th male or something, and Lauren was sixth place
wow,
female. And if she hadn't stopped
yep,
to, and the Missoula Marathon, I mean, there were elite athletes there. There was an elite list of athletes that, like, if you wanted to win
wow,
prize money, because there was prize money at the race for the top three, you had to like go into, and she wasn't in that elite list, but she went and ran and beat. There were 10 elite athletes, elite females. She took sixth female.
P4.
And actually, if she hadn't taken a bathroom break, she might have been fourth, or
Mm,
right up there with fourth place. And so
wow,
it was, a good day. She might have taken a podium spot there. And that's a running race that is not exactly what it is. And in a few days, we're going to go run a trail 10K. And then in the week after that, she's going to run the Spartan race in Utah. So
oh
hybrid
great,
fitness, what I really love about it, it lets you jump into all these other periphery events that are around,
yeah,
so you can go
yep,
have fun without exactly specifying one thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So you've got 2 more races in the next 2 weeks, do you?
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I won a free 10K trail race, and so I told Lauren that she can run it because I didn't really want to. And
Yeah,
then
cool.
we got the Spartan race in Utah, so
Yeah,
it'll be good.
that was great. That was great. And then I've got High Rock Sydney in 3 weeks' time.
Yep. It is.
Yeah.
Uh, We're doing Sydney
So
and
that's
then Brisbane, right?
yep.
So do you live in Brisbane? Do you live outside Brisbane? I know you talked about like traveling the last 2 days, but
Yeah. Well, traveling was it was it's we've come from the Gold Coast, which is only an hour from Brisbane. But so Georgie's parents live in Brisbane, so we're kind of here for a while, and then we're up on the Sunshine Coast, which is north of Brisbane, only an hour to my to mum's house, up on the Sunshine Coast. So we're we're kind of waiting, to be completely honest, we're kind of waiting until we understand what the major setup is look like to just understand if we need to do a lot of traveling into the year. And if then we're gonna, make sure we're actually bunking down and finding place. But hope we find out later.
nice. All right. Um, do you have anything else to talk about today, or you want to wrap this one up here?
No, I think we'll wrap this one up and see you guys in the next one. Obviously, if you are interested in coaching or just having a chat about your hybrid fitness, please don't hesitate to send a message. Myself on the Instagram's the best, just JK Hybrid Coaching. Yeah, I'd be happy to chat. Anthony,
Yeah, you can reach me at a wild parasini or the hybrid engine on Instagram. You can also look up the website or find us on Fitter. And I wanted to say, JK, just for next week, do we have something lined up we're going to talk about for the next episode? Little teaser. Are we
you've got me.
oh, I I can cut this off if not, but is your is your dad coming
I was
on?
like, are you? Oh, mate, I've got the worst memory. But yes, yes, a little teaser. We're gonna get my old man, my father on board just to have a chat. About yeah, about about all things.
He'll
About all
be
things.
he'll be the first
Sorry,
guest
I
on this
totally
podcast.
he'll be the first guest. I totally
Yep.
blew it. I just totally forgot about that.
I won't cut this part off.
Hmm.
That's perfect.
He's
That works.
no, that's perfect.
Uh,
No, he's super keen.
he'll be episode 10 or 11, I believe. Probably
And
11. And
yeah,
he'll be the first guest of our podcast, and maybe we'll start to get a couple guests if we line them up.
yeah.
I guess
Sounds great.
unless you
Sounds
count
good.
the World Championships episode where we had like the team there. That was kind of all together.
That's true. Yeah,
But
yeah.
all
So the
right.
second guess.
All right, I'm gonna
All right.
wrap this one up.
Thanks, guys.